What we're going to do today is I'm going to go over a Zoom attendance program. So the program that I made is a Stata program, and I'm going to post this program to my website. First, you're going to want to open Zoom. You'll want to log in. You'll go to Settings, View More Settings, and you'll want to go to Reports. So the files that we'll download are called reports. We'll go to Usage, and you want to choose a 1 month increment, and I'll choose, say, December 1st, and then it'll go to 12/31, the end of December. What you'll do is you'll click search. You'll see the participants here, download the files. Then, of course, when you export, you'll see some names and email addresses of your students. So that's how you get the Zoom data, and they are CSV files. Now, once you get the CSV files, you'll want to combine all of those files each day into one CSV file, one file that you can import into Stata. So this is the Stata Browse window here. Now, if you check this out, you can see the original name here. Here I've made up some names and student email addresses. And this is the information that Zoom will give you. So for each click on the participants, that number, you'll get 1 day's worth of participant information. You'll see your own name here too. You'll be the instructor in the course, and you won't see any indication that you're the instructor, but that's okay. And information for the duration is important. Each student has a duration here, and this is the amount of time that they were in the Zoom meeting. So the way this program works is it's going to add up all of these durations for each class meeting, and it's going to consider the total amount of class minutes, and it's going to find an attendance grade based on those durations. Another thing to notice here, you may see a student here with a email address that is different than their normal sign-in. So if that's the case, you'll need to make a change in your code, in your file, to address this. Okay, not an issue really. If you make a program file here, you can make those changes and just run this program, and you don't have to think about it again. You'll import the CSV file here. Has all of the Zoom meetings. We're going to create a variable called duration, and we'll have it set equal to 75. And 75 minutes is the class length. Now, typically, if you look at this data, you'll see students, they will spend more than the class time in any given day. So they have a duration longer than 75 minutes. We don't want to include those extra minutes because the students are just kind of sitting there waiting to start class. So we won't include this in their official attendance grade. We're going to replace the duration equal to how long the students spend in class if their minutes are less than 75. If they're over 75 minutes, the duration is just going to be 75. But if their minutes are less than 75, we will replace the value in that duration variable. So if you have a student who has a work email address and they sometimes sign in to the Zoom lecture with that work email address, you'll want to replace it with their correct email address. And that's what this line will do here. And there it is, it's gone, right? They're all the same. Now something else too, we have this student, John Smith. He joined the lecture at 12:30. He left at 12:37. A second later, entered back in, and then he stayed for the rest of the lecture. Well, you want that student to have the full amount of minutes. And you don't want them to have too many minutes. We can use this date information, the join time and leave time variables. We're going to separate the date and the time. Then we'll create a date variable. And then with that date variable, we can collapse and combine these durations. So we want the total minutes for one student for 1 day. So we're going to split that variable, and let's rename it date. It's going to create a temporary variable here. We'll call it date. And so here's the date information. Now what we're going to do, Stata has a command called collapse, and we're going to collapse on the date and to the user email. Again, we're going to do that replace with the duration thing. And we don't want to give them extra minutes. So I collapsed by the date and the user email. And then I collapsed by the user email. Each student, well, they have a user email here, right? And this is for a full semester. My minutes are here as well. We don't have the names here anymore, but that's okay. For upload into the grade system, just need the user email, and of course you'll need the variable for the attendance. If you have a student that misses class and they have an excuse for missing class, well, you can give them those minutes, and you can, well, subtract those minutes from the total minutes required for them for the course. So if a student misses class and they have an excuse to miss class, then you can record that in the program file. So what I'm going to do for excuses, whenever a student tells me they have an excused absence, I record it in my program file here, and I create this excused variable. It's going to be equal to a 0, and we're going to replace the excused number here with the number of minutes that are actually excused. And so we have our number of minutes excused. Remember, 75 minutes is one class. So if you have an excused absence, they get 75 for that day. Now we want to define the total number of minutes, class minutes, using a maximum duration value. I have that defined here by the number of minutes that I spend in class. So I spend 1,950 minutes in class. Now, if I let the class out early, then I'm going to log out from Zoom, and the minutes that I spend in class will be less for that day. And then my duration will be less. So I want to set the maximum amount of class time required in the course to be the amount of minutes that I spend teaching. So 1950 is the max. I'm going to generate a variable. It's called instructor minutes. It'll be equal to the duration for me. Instructor minutes, we're going to create another variable. It's called total class minutes, and that's going to be the maximum value. So here's the instructor minutes, 1950, that's for me. And then the egen will create another variable, total class minutes, which is defined by the maximum of this variable, which is 1950. And every time you run this program, this number will be different. Now, the total class minutes, if a student missed a class and it's excused, we'll take that total, say 1950, and we'll subtract 225 from the 1950. Okay, so his grade, John Smith here, will be 1275 divided by 1950, subtracting 225. So he's going to have a higher grade because of those excused minutes. And you'll have some students with attendance grades greater than 100. We only want to give them 100%. The thing with our upload system here, we want to have a grade that is 2 decimals. And for it's called ReggieNet at Illinois State, we want those 2 decimals. You may want to kind of change things and export it as a CSV file. They want your student ID kind of separate from the email address. So I have the code here. It separates the student ID. And we have a column for the name. ReggieNet needs a name column, but you don't actually have to have the names here, right? You just need the student ID. And here we have our attendance grade. It's going to look like this as a CSV file. So, and this is what ReggieNet needs. You can save the .dta file here in Stata as well. And here's the export file to get the CSV file, and you're all set. So I hope you've enjoyed this. This is just a little example, little fun program that you can use so you can keep track of your students' attendance. This is on my website. Check that out. And thanks for coming in today.